What's up? This is Ross with Tactics. We're out at Soul Tech with Emerica designer Paul Kwon, and we're talking Cupsole versus Vulcanized. That's kind of one of the general guides that most people go off of when they're choosing their shoes, but I think there's a lot of kind of misconstrued myths that go into what makes a vulcanized shoe, what makes a Cupsole shoe, and so we're kind of trying to set the record straight with someone who knows shoes, designs shoes from the ground up. So let's jump into it. What is the difference?
So the biggest difference between a vulcanized construction and a Cupsole construction has to do with the actual rubber compound that comprises the Cupsole or the vulcanized shoe. Vulcanized refers to the chemical makeup of the rubber that is used on the foxing and the outsole. And the biggest difference in what that means is pretty much the compound that we use in vulcanized footwear has to be heat treated, so it has to go in an oven, it has to get baked. And when that happens, the chemistry inside the rubber actually contracts, so it has these wavy lines that kind of go in when it's straight. The way that it's constructed with the foxing wrapping around the outsole, 2 times, when that heat is applied, it constricts and it kind of like bonds to the outsole, creating one solid sole unit. In a normal Cupsole construction, it's just one piece of rubber and it's not baked. So usually the upper and the midsole is applied through some kind of UV glue, but it's not heat activated. It doesn't go in the oven and it doesn't bake. There's certain attributes that kind of like make certain things better on a vulcanized construction and certain things that a Cupsole construction has strengths and weaknesses. Number one being, if a Cupsole construction doesn't go through the oven, a lot of the foams and certain materials that we put inside of the shoe won't get degraded in a certain way. So like when something goes in the oven, there's certain types of foams that you can't use, and there's certain types of materials that once they're baked in the oven, it compromises their structure, their integrity. So there's just certain ways that you can't have a lot of like expensive foams or like rubbery or plastic parts a lot of times when they get baked in the oven. But having them baked in the oven, they get certain strengths like the flexibility of the board feel and the way that the sidewall kind of comes up, and the low profile construction of the vulcanized shoes give you that board feel, and it gives you that there's less of a break in time, but they tend to degrade a little bit faster, and the integrity is like compromised when you're skating, so the durability tends to be a shorter lifespan. Now with the Cupsole, the break-in period time can be a little bit longer, so it can take you a while for them to get that sweet spot in their lifespan, but they tend to last longer because the rubber hasn't been put in the oven, it hasn't been baked, and the structural integrity stays intact. So that's the biggest differentiating point. It can be confusing because people tend to think that vulcanized is just the way that it's wrapped, that there's foxing that goes around it and that the pieces are 2 different parts. But the biggest differentiator is the fact that there's heat applied to one and there's not heat applied to the other one. So that's what traditionally, technically what makes a vulcanized construction and what makes a cold cement or a Cupsole construction. So yeah, that's the biggest differentiator.
So there you have it, a little more knowledge to have in the back of your head when you're shopping for new shoes. Just because it's a cup doesn't mean that it's going to be stiff and super supportive, and just because it's a vulc doesn't mean that it's going to be, floppy. And I mean, it also goes into what sort of cushioning they're using based on how supportive they're going to be. So
yeah, there's definitely different wiggle room within each construction to kind of like offset those strengths and weaknesses of the type of rubber you're using. But whichever way you go, you can still, based on the variables that you have, create a really great skate shoe that lasts long. There's vulcanized shoes that last long that skate really well, and there's Cupsole shoes that have really good board feel too. It's all in the variables.
Cool. Well, thank you for clearing all that up so that we can all make better decisions on what footwear makes the most sense for us. If you have any more questions about this or anything to do with skate shoe tech in general, definitely throw those in the box below and we'll do our best to get back to you and help you out there. Besides that, go over and check out these shoes, Emerica's shoes, or all the other shoes we have on tactics.com.